Great to see you on a brand new episode of Battle Cry. Here's wishing you a very happy Independence Day weekend. And true to the occasion, we've got a very Swadeshi show for you today. With the Modi government imposing a historic import ban on over 100 pieces of military hardware, could this be the beginning of the end of India's dubious distinction of being the world's largest importer of weapons and equipment? The big question this week on Battle Cry. Has that moment finally arrived? The age of the Indian weapon, true Atmanirbharta in defense. 83 Indian fighter aircraft, 106 Indian trainer aircraft, 15 Indian combat helicopters, and much, much more. Modi makes big Indian weapons push, imposes historic ban on foreign mal. But will this boost Make in India? Or is this only a very small first step? Modi's defense Atmanirbhar boom. This week on Battle Cry. If 2020 has been chosen as the year to kick off true Atmanirbharta in defense, it will be ending with a bang. The government is all set to place historic orders for 2 Indian military aircraft. You can also see them with me. 83 fighter jets and 15 combat helicopters developed and built in India. At every level, this is a huge boost to Indian industry and self-reliance in defense. India's light combat aircraft Tejas, India's light combat helicopter, 2 indigenously developed military aircraft now on the threshold of a massive milestone. With Defence Minister Rajnath Singh unveiling India's first import ban list for military hardware, the decks are now cleared for 2 massive Indian deals. A $5.2 billion deal for 83 improved Tejas fighter jets, codenamed the Mark 1A, and the first ever contract for 15 indigenously developed light combat helicopters. With the government declaring Atmanirbhar Saptah or Self-Reliance Week, there's strong buzz that Prime Minister Modi could make an announcement on Independence Day on August the 15th, though there is no confirmation of this so far. What is certain, though, is that the final green signal has been given for both deals to be signed. In a massive show of faith in the indigenous combat helicopter, the Indian Air Force's Vice Chief flew an LCH in full combat profile in Ladakh last week. He is said to have been very impressed with the machine, and ahead of the first historic order, 2 of these helicopters have been deployed to Ladakh on a force projection mission with the Indian Air Force. After a long and troubled development cycle, the light combat aircraft entered squadron service with the Indian Air Force in 2016, with half of about 40 aircraft delivered already to populate 2 squadrons. The upcoming contract for 83 additional aircraft is for a hugely improved version that sports better offensive capabilities and is more easily maintainable. Both the contracts for the improved Tejas and the light combat helicopter will be a windfall for India's state-owned Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, the country's sole military aircraft manufacturer. A company that has thrived on captive orders and zero competition for decades, and simply filled its order books without any fear of losing to a non-existent rival. which has led to concerns that the two new mega contracts will be only the latest incentive for HAL to shun improvements and stagnate in efficiency and innovation, while the private sector remains a second-class citizen in defense manufacture. Finally, what will compel HAL to wake up and stop taking such orders for granted? While the road to Atmanirbharta in defense is a difficult one, orders for the two indigenous aircraft comes as an undeniable milestone in a country that remains one of the largest importers of defense equipment. A reminder that came just days ago with the arrival of India's first Rafale jets from France. Will India's future military aircraft path be more Atmanirbhar is the multi-billion-dollar question. Bureau Report, India Today. While the two deals for frontline combat aircraft are inbound, the government has also approved the purchase of over 100 Indian trainer aircraft, the very planes that will train pilots before they fly high-performance jets. The upcoming contract for HAL's HTT-40 trainer is an affirmation of faith in an Indian development program that meets a critical and urgent need for our military aviators.
An Indian aircraft designed and built by Indian engineers for trainee Indian Air Force pilots. This is the HTT-40, a light propeller trainer that has just been cleared for a historic order. A contract for 106 of these planes will shortly be signed by the Indian Air Force. The HTT-40 will then become the first step for pilot cadets zooming into a life of flight. But like with all indigenous defense projects, the journey here has been a turbulent one. The HTT-40 is the belated replacement for HAL's earlier trainer, the HPT-32 Deepak, which after a spate of accidents was grounded permanently in 2009. With no alternative available, a desperate Indian Air Force was forced to look abroad for a solution. Finally signing up 75 Swiss Pilatus PC-7 basic trainer aircraft in 2002. Deliveries began the following year, and the aircraft is now the first plane that Air Force trainees fly. While the Indian Air Force had planned to purchase more of these Swiss planes, a CBI probe into corruption allegations put an end to that, with the Swiss manufacturer being blacklisted in 2019 from doing business with India. In the meanwhile, the HTT-40 quietly began flight tests, finally proving itself more than competent to meet the Indian Air Force's needs and plug right into the training regimen at the Air Force flying academies. Once inducted, pilots will begin basic training on the PC-7 or HTT-40. Some pilots then undergo intermediate jet training on aging Kiran turbojet trainers and then graduate to the Hawk Advanced Jet Trainer for higher performance and systems training. Finally, they convert to frontline fighter jets where their careers truly begin. The HTT-40 got a huge boost last year when Air Force Chief Bhadoria strapped into the aircraft for a show of faith flight. The first big signal that the project had succeeded in winning the heart of its intended customer. A historic first order for the HTT-40 is a reason to cheer for advocates of self-reliance. But there is no overlooking the fact that significant parts of this aircraft are imported. Most significantly, its propeller engine is of American origin, from the company Honeywell. Only another reminder that for all of India's big strides in aeronautics, the country has failed to develop a single worthy aircraft engine. But that aside, the order comes as a huge boost to a young team in Bengaluru that has developed, tested and delivered the HTT-40 in a relatively short time. To the satisfaction of one of the toughest customers in the world, the Indian Air Force. Bureau Report, India Today.
But will the import ban be a magic wand for self-reliance? Will Atmanirbharta arrive like the wind tomorrow? Of course you know it won't. There's a long way ahead. And as India tries to shed the past taint of being such a huge importer of weapons, here's a reality check on the huge number of hits and misses the country has seen in crucial defense equipment over the decades. The road to self-reliance is a very bumpy, turbulent one. But it's a road that must be traveled. As a country that celebrates 73 years as an independent nation, but 73 years fully dependent on foreign weapon imports, an embarrassing blemish on a country with global aspirations. But with the Indian government taking the country's first hard decision on banning 100 different pieces of weaponry in a phased manner, it's important to be aware that India has always had a Make in India industry. But in the face of constant preference for imported goods and the failure of some Indian projects to deliver the goods, India has had a totally lopsided track record in favor of foreign weaponry. But if all that is to change, the first step needs to be awareness of what has and has not worked. A great place to start is a list of India's Swadeshi hits and misses in defense. The most visible symbol of India's strategic weapon success has been its family of Agni ballistic missiles. With no country on earth that would ever share such technology, India was forced to develop these in-house, spawning a supremely formidable family of long-range missiles for India's nuclear deterrent. However, India hasn't yet been able to induct a Swadeshi anti-tank missile. The Nag has been in development for decades and is said to be in a final stretch before acceptance by the Indian Army. But the lack of a mature product has forced India to procure vast numbers of anti-tank weaponry from abroad, including the Cornet, Conkers, Milan, and most recently, the Spike from Israel. The Dhruv helicopter has been a very successful Indian helicopter project with wide inductions in the Indian Army and Air Force, with certain numbers also exported to other countries. The helicopter has also spawned the light combat helicopter, which is about to see its first ever orders signed shortly. The helicopter has been deployed in all corners of India, from the deserts to the high altitudes of Siachen. On the other hand, HAL hasn't been able to develop its own jet trainer aircraft to replace the old Kiran fleet. India was forced to import advanced jet trainers in the form of the British Hawk and then license build them. While HAL is still working to prove the safety of an intermediate jet trainer called the HJT-36 Sitara. The Pinaka multi-barrel rocket system has been a huge success for the Indian Army, a formidable weapon fully developed and built in India. This long-range rocket artillery system has spawned a project for a guided version of the Pinaka. The government's self-reliance push has also included an upgraded manufacturing process to hasten the production of this rocket system to populate even more rocket regiments. Meanwhile, India has struggled to develop basic assault rifles that are acceptable to the Indian Army's infantry regiments. The ubiquitous INSAS rifle you see with soldiers are not well loved, with many problems in operations, forcing the Indian Army to import huge numbers of SIG 716 assault rifles from the US, as well as enter into a partnership with Russia to build AK-203 Kalashnikov assault rifles at an upcoming joint venture facility in Uttar Pradesh. Either way, the rifles are foreign. The Akash surface-to-air missile is another big success in the Swadeshi weapons scene, with regiments in service both with the Indian Army and Air Force, and orders placed for more. The frontline missile system has found interest in other countries, with Vietnam waiting in the wings for at least 2 years for a possible supply of this weapon. But no decision has been taken by India so far. Meanwhile, India hasn't been able to deliver a satisfactory battle tank to the army. The Arjun project, which began after the 1971 war, has ended up with a minuscule 124 tanks entering service and the army going slow on inducting an improved version of the same. Amplifying the Arjun's lack of success has been India's decision to instead import and license build thousands of Soviet origin T-72 and T-90 tanks. Manufacture of the latter continues to this day. India has always been proficient in sensors, radars and avionics. There's no better visible example than the Netra. That big radar antenna you see like a dorsal fin on the Brazilian Embraer jet is a fully Indian airborne early warning radar. The aircraft has found great favor with the Indian Air Force, enough for planners to demand more of these aircraft, but with higher capabilities. But there's no escaping the fact that India has failed to develop a successful jet engine for aircraft. The Kaveri project continued for years but never managed to deliver a credible product, leading to a situation where all Indian aircraft use foreign engines, including the LCA Tejas, the proposed improved version, the LCA Mark II, as well as future fighters. While the country is about to kickstart a fresh jet engine project from scratch, the fact is there's none on hand right now. And this is just a sampling of the hits and misses. Like we said, the road to self-reliance won't be an easy one. Bureau Report, India Today.
And as momentum builds for Swadeshi weapons, here's a reminder that India's legacy of imports will continue to be very prominent in the order of battle and will require large resources to keep them maintained and upgraded. For instance, India's Israeli Heron drones, which have now been cleared for an ambitious and expensive weaponization program called Project Cheetah.
By sheer numbers, it's India's biggest eye in the sky. The Israel-built Heron surveillance drone. The Indian Armed Forces operate nearly 100 of these unmanned reconnaissance planes, deploying them wherever required across the country. For surveillance to be a dependable eye in the sky.
including in Ladakh amidst border tensions, as revealed by this recent satellite picture. But now, after over a decade of service, the Indian government wants these herons to go to the next level. On Tuesday, the Ministry of Defence cleared a long-pending program to upgrade its heron drones and weaponize them. India today has learnt that the project, in collaboration with Israel, will see the heron drones fitted with laser-guided bombs, standoff air-to-ground missiles and anti-tank guided missiles capable of remote precision strike missions. Designated Project Cheetah and said to be worth over 3,000 crore rupees, the Heron Arming Project will look to give the surveillance drone the ability to carry and fire spice-guided bombs similar to the ones used in the Balakot strikes and Spike anti-armor missiles. A modified version of an Indian air-to-ground strike weapon is also said to be part of the plan. Flown remotely by ground controllers, armed herons will be capable of flying hundreds of kilometers away to deploy weapons at targets. The quest to upgrade and arm the herons has been on the table for years, as hinted, not very subtly, by this 2018 marketing video by Israeli aerospace industries, clearly showing India as the area of operations for this higher performance heron. Like with several other emergency procurements, the current border tensions with China have forced India to dust Project Cheetah off the shelf and place it on the fast track. While the existing heron fleet will now be upgraded and armed, India has also been interested for years in acquiring the Iton you see here, a larger and more capable version of the heron. This recent video is of the first flight of an Iton being supplied by Israel to Germany. The India-Israel project is all set to begin now. The herons that could once only see will soon have teeth for a fight. With Manjeet Negi in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Thank you, viewer, for making us one of India's most watched weekend shows on television. Once again, I wish you and your families a very happy and peaceful Independence Day weekend. Let's always remember our soldiers, sailors and air warriors who don't have the luxury of a day off like so many of us today. And as we always say here on Battle Cry, India's true strength will only be realized when no human needs to be sent into battle and no weapon fired. Thanks for watching.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.